Amelia Earhart never made it to her 40th birthday, but in that time she accomplished so much. Today, I will tell you about Earhart's fight for women's rights. This is Amelia Earhart, and I have done a very in-depth study between first-hand documents resourced from the Library of Congress and many different documentaries that I have watched. Today, I will explain the background of the climate at the time, along with the history of Amelia Earhart and her impact into women's rights, and how this can be seen today. In the early 1900s, women were very oppressed. They were told to stay home with the kids and work, and this was just a social norm that many people had to face. And another thing that this came from in having jobs was that employers didn't want to hire women. They were afraid that once they got pregnant, they wouldn't want to work and would want time off. And another thing that came with this is some states, such as Wisconsin, had laws against women working. Things like this came together to make the suffrage movement, where there was rallies in the streets, there was organizations coming together, there was so many women fighting for the right to vote. Another thing that was going on at this time was World War I, which is where women were forced to work in factories because men were sent off to go fight in the war. But after this, they were forced to go back into the traditional roles just as fast. One good thing to come out of this era, though, was progressive education, and this is something that benefited Amelia Earhart greatly. She was, however, homeschooled until she was 12 years old by her mother with her two sisters. She was born in Atchison, Kansas, but then moved to St. Paul to start high school, however finished in Hyde Park, which is Chicago, Illinois. After this, she attended 2.5 years of finishing school, but decided that she would actually go and work at a military hospital in Canada with her sister. At this time, they would go out to the airfield and watch the airplanes, and this is one thing that got Amelia very interested in the science of aviation. After this, she actually attended Columbia University for a whole year. But this was because she decided that flight was where her heart lay. And she decided in 1921, she started in February and gained her license by December, and then a year later set her first record for flying to 14,000 feet. After this, she racked up 8 more world records that created such a famous name for every household in America. At the time, she was actually recalled as the second most famous woman in America, held second only to Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady herself. And at this time, she started working in her activism. After all of her world records that she would obtain, she would do lectures, and these lectures stood to show women that they could really accomplish these things that she was doing. At this time, in between some of her world records, she actually worked as a social worker and as a school teacher. These were both very short-lived professions, and they actually only were at this one specific facility only for young women. But after this, she actually became a member in became a member in the America's Astronautical Society in the Boston chapter. And this is one thing that really fueled her power in aviation for women. And with her lectures and everything, this is what gave a face to her name. And these are speeches just like this one here.
When the history of our times is written, it was recorded as supremely significant that physical, psychic, and social changes women have undergone in these exciting decades.
This shows her power and influence of trying to show women that they were really capable of what she was as well doing. After she also became a part of the organization in astronautics, she became a part in the National Women's Party. This is a party that was focused in the beginning on the voting rights movement for women that was a part of the suffrage era. After this, they focused on the Equal Rights Amendment. And this is what Amelia started to really focus on too. She was very passionate about the Equal Rights Amendment. At this time, she also was working in the organization called the 99s. She was elected the first president of this organization, which withheld the values of supporting, advancing, and keeping record of all women in aviation at the time. These things are things that we can still see today. One thing specifically is that the 99s are still active. There is over 150 chapters in the United States and Canada, along with 7 overseas chapters. And in the time that she was working on her activism, she also was setting all of those records, and this impressed America. It also started to normalize women succeeding, and this is something that many men had never even dreamed of having on headline newspapers. And along with this, her fame enlightened people about all of her activism that she was partaking in at the time as well. In things like this from today, we can see all the women in aviation that have come from Amelia Earhart's era. These women would not have the doors that are open to them without the women like Amelia Earhart. And this is why it is so important to focus on more than just her last flight. So thank you for listening to my speech today about Amelia Earhart. I hope that you understand more about the background of what was going on at the time, along with the accomplishments in her career, and the outcome that this all had on America. Remember, next time that you see Amelia Earhart's face, try to remember her for more than just her last flight. Is there any questions that you have at the end? Yes.
How old was Amelia when she took her last flight?
She was 39 years old. She actually was declared missing just before her 40th birthday. So, do you have any more questions? No?